My name is Rachel Monroe. I'm 36 years old, and I'm standing at the back of my younger brother's Navy SEAL induction ceremony, pretending I don't exist. I'm wearing a civilian blouse and jeans, blending in like a distant cousin who barely made the RSVP list. Nobody looks at me, not my parents, not my brother, not even the family friend who used to call me kiddo every Christmas. Why? Because everyone here believes I flunked out of the Naval Academy, that I couldn't handle it, that I quit. The irony, I'm a colonel in Air Force Special Operations. My security clearance could melt half the people in this room, and I earned that clearance by leading classified operations across continents. But to my family, I'm the disappointment, the ghost. As I scan the crowd, I spot my father, retired Navy Commander Vincent Monroe, front and center. His back is straight, his uniform pressed pride practically steaming off him. Beside him is my mother Darlene, wrapped in blue chiffon and nostalgia, beaming up at my brother Caleb, like she just gave birth to George Washington himself. And then I see him, General David Rourke, commanding officer of Caleb's training division. He steps onto the podium, scans the audience, and his eyes land on me. Recognition hits him like a slap. His posture shifts, his lips part. I freeze. Rourke knows who I am. He knows exactly who I am. And that's when he says it. "Colonel Monroe, you're here." The crowd turns. A beat of silence stretches so long I can hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. My father's jaw drops. My mother's fingers clutch her pearls. Caleb, poor Caleb, looks like someone just whispered a state secret into his ear. Me, I stand taller. "Yes, sir," I reply, voice clear. "Wouldn't miss it." The ripple spreads. Whispers, confusion, awe. And then the murmurs start. "Colonel. She's a colonel. Her." That's the moment everything cracks open. Let me take you back to how we got here. Growing up in Virginia Beach, the Monroe House was a museum of military glory. Shadow boxes, service flags, plaques. My dad walked like a man still on deck, even when carrying groceries. The only conversations that ever mattered revolved around deployments, battles, honor codes. From the time I could speak, I wanted to serve. Not because they told me to, because I believed in it. But belief wasn't enough. I was a straight-A student. Athletic, disciplined. I memorized NATO phonetic codes for fun. I got into the Naval Academy at 18 a feet that made my father cry. For a day I mattered. "Don't screw it up," he told me. But in my third year, something happened. I was pulled into a Black Ops intelligence meeting. Apparently, someone had flagged my psychological assessment, not for instability, for pattern recognition. "You see things," the recruiter said. "Patterns in chaos. That's rare." They offered me a role in a covert interbranch program, one that demanded total secrecy. I couldn't say yes fast enough, but it came with a cost to cover story. The easiest one that I washed out. "Nobody questions failure," the officer said, "but they notice whispers." So I let them believe I failed. My parents didn't ask for details. They didn't want to know. My father just stopped talking to me. At first, I told myself it would all be worth it. Then came the holidays. At Thanksgiving, they set one less plate. At Christmas, my name wasn't on a single gift. Caleb, the new golden child, filled the space I vacated, and I let him. I told myself it's for the mission, for the greater good. But every time I risked my life sitting alone in a safe house somewhere in Eastern Europe or coordinating an airlift under sniper fire, I wondered if my father even remembered I existed. I earned medals. I led teams. I briefed the Joint Chiefs. But to my family, I was the dropout. And that brings us back to today, to the moment General Rourke saw me, because what he said next didn't just change the room. It shattered a decade-long illusion. In the days that followed the SEAL ceremony, my life didn't go back to normal because it never had a normal to begin with. The headlines that morning were filled with military accolades and training excellence, with Caleb's name listed among the latest graduates. Our family, of course, was ecstatic. Photos of my brother in uniform were posted on every possible platform, my mother's Facebook profile practically glowing with digital patriotism. "So proud of our brave SEAL," her caption read. Not a single mention of what had unfolded on that stage. As if the word colonel hadn't detonated the air around us. Not a call, not a message, just silent. I wasn't surprised. The truth had dropped like a stone into still water. And my family was still watching the ripples in disbelief, pretending it hadn't come from me. 3 days later, I received a secure dispatch requesting my presence at an Air Force Intelligence Command briefing in D.C. The operation was urgent, sensitive, a cyber threat linked to an overseas cartel with suspected connections to rogue digital warfare units, the kind of assignment I was uniquely equipped to unravel. But my mind wasn't where it needed to be, because for the first time in my career, I was distracted, not by fear or mission logistics, but by the look on my father's face when he heard someone call me Colonel. I couldn't shake it, couldn't shake the image of my mother's trembling lips, her eyes flickering between disbelief and embarrassment. And Caleb had looked at me like I was someone entirely foreign, like the big sister he'd known had been replaced by an imposter in combat boots. I tried to shove the thoughts aside, but they clung to me like sand and desert wind. During the briefing, I kept my focus sharp, took notes, asked the right questions, highlighted patterns others missed. But afterward, as my team dispersed and the secure doors sealed shut behind me, I sat in the empty conference room for a long time. I wasn't just fighting enemies out there. I was at war inside my own home. That night, I broke protocol. I called Caleb. He didn't pick up. I sent a simple message: I never stopped being your sister. I just couldn't be her out loud. No reply. I didn't expect one. But the next morning, something happened. A package arrived at my apartment, no return address. Just a plain envelope inside. No note. No explanation. Just a photo. It was from our childhood. Me and Caleb, aged 10 and 6, wearing our Halloween costumes. I was Amelia Earhart. He was a tiny pirate. We were sitting on the front steps of our house, both grinning with matching dimples and an absurd number of chocolate stains. I hadn't seen that photo in over 20 years. My chest tightened. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't let myself feel in a long time. Hope. A week passed, then another. My missions continued, my responsibilities mounted, and the weight of national security never let up. But something had shifted. Quietly, internally. One afternoon, while debriefing a joint task force with MI6, I received another unexpected notification. Caleb had filed a visitor request for the base to see me. I approved it before I could think. He arrived that Sunday, dressed in his navy khakis, posture stiff with unease. His eyes searched the Air Force Base like he'd landed on Mars. I met him outside my quarters, heart pounding, like I was facing a foreign dignitary rather than my own brother. I had to go through 3 security checks just to get here, he said by way of greeting. Imagine doing that in 4 countries with a sat phone and a heartbeat of sleep, I replied. He laughed, a little. Why didn't you tell us, he asked, voice low. You mean, why didn't I make you proud? No, he said, serious now. I mean, why didn't you let us know you were still fighting? That cracked something in me. I wanted to. Every birthday, every holiday. But everything I did, the lives I protected, the missions I led, it all came with a conditioned silence. Dad thought you gave up. I know. He told everyone you just couldn't cut it. I didn't believe him at first. But after a while, you stopped showing up. I thought maybe he was right. I never left the fight, Caleb. I just had to fight from the shadows. He looked away, jaw tense. You know, he said after a long pause after the ceremony, people kept asking me about you. Some guy from Special Tactics said you saved a unit in Syria. Another from Cyber Ops said you broke a code they couldn't crack in weeks. I didn't even know what to say. You were just gone. I handed him the photo he'd sent me. I wasn't gone, I said. I was building something. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry, he said finally. I was proud of you. I just didn't know how to say it with Dad breathing down everyone's neck. That was the closest to an apology I'd get from Caleb. And surprisingly, it was enough. We talked for an hour more, mostly in metaphors, military jargon, and the kind of sibling shorthand forged in shared childhoods. He didn't ask for operational details, I couldn't give them anyway, but he asked enough to let me know he was beginning to understand. Before he left, he turned to me and said something I'll never forget. Whatever Dad thinks doesn't matter anymore. I know what you've done. And if they ever write a history of this country's unsung heroes, your name should be in bold. I didn't cry. I've learned how not to. But I did let myself smile, because maybe, just maybe, I hadn't lost my family forever, just misplaced them in the fog. 1 week later, I got an invitation, not the kind that comes embossed in foil or with fancy cursive on heavyweight cardstock. No! This was a plain white envelope shoved through my apartment door with my full name in careful block letters. Inside a family dinner invitation. Dinner? At my parents' house. On purpose. It read, "We're having a small dinner this Saturday. Just us. Come if you want." No uniforms. No signature, but I didn't need one. Only my mother would specify a no uniform policy, like this was the Met Gala, and my boots might offend her china. I sat staring at that note for 10 full minutes. I wasn't sure what shocked me more, that they were finally acknowledging my existence, or that I was actually considering going. Saturday arrived too quickly. I dressed carefully, civilian clothes. Nothing flashy, but still structured. Subtle strength, a navy blouse, slacks boots I could run in if I had to. No makeup. No rank insignia, no medals. But I clipped one thing to my wrist before I left, a simple paracord bracelet. It had been with me through 3 continents, 2 near-death extractions, and 1 ice-cold intel mission in Norway. If I was going to sit through a Monroe family dinner, I needed armor. The house hadn't changed. Same spotless walkway, same precisely trimmed hedges, same brass plaque near the door that read, "Commander Monroe, USN Ret." As if Dad had ever actually retired from commanding anyone. I knocked twice. Darlene opened the door, my mother, hair perfect, lipstick sharp, face unreadable. "Hi," I said. "You're early," she replied, stepping aside. No traffic. She didn't comment. Just nodded stiffly and led me into the dining room. Caleb was already there, setting the table like this was a normal Saturday, like we hadn't been fractured for over a decade. My father stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, watching me with the kind of clinical scrutiny he used to reserve for uniform inspections. Nobody said a word for a full minute. Then Caleb broke the silence with a forced cheerfulness, whine. "I'm good," I replied. "Thanks." We sat. The tension sat with us. For the first several minutes, the conversation was painstakingly neutral. Weather, neighborhood, renovations, some local politics chatter. My father didn't look at me. My mother kept her eyes on her plate. Caleb tried, bless him, but he couldn't hold the weight of a decade's worth of silence by himself. It wasn't until the second course that it happened. Dad set down his fork, folded his hands, and said, "Is it true you briefed the Joint Chief? Straight to it, no buffer." I looked at him evenly. Yes. Classified. Most of it. And Somalia was that year. I met his gaze, partially. I coordinated the extraction protocol. The team lead was one of mine. A long pause. "You saved 30 men," he said, not a question. A statement. 33, I corrected. Another beat passed. Then he nodded just once. The kind of nod military men give each other when they've run out of ways to argue. That tiny motion shifted the entire atmosphere in the room. My mother cleared her throat. "Why didn't you tell us?" I couldn't. "You could have said something." What was I supposed to say? I asked, voice still calm. That your disappointment was part of a national security directive, that the silence wasn't weakness, it was protocol. My mother looked down. Caleb interjected. "They didn't know, Ray. That's not an excuse, just, they didn't know." Dad looked older than I remembered. His sharp edges dulled slightly. "I thought you'd failed," he admitted. "You thought wrong. I know that now." And there it was. The closest thing to an apology I'd ever get. I took a breath. I never failed. I adapted. Another pause, then astonishingly, my father chuckled. "You always were better at recon than brute force." Someone had to be. That made Caleb laugh. Then my mother reluctantly smiled. The rest of the dinner was clumsy but real. They asked questions. I gave answers where I could. And when I couldn't, I said so. I told them about training blindfolded in icy rivers, about running missions on 72 hours of no sleep, about the night I had to decide whether to pull a team or press forward knowing the casualty risk. I didn't tell them about the screams, or the times I came home and forgot where I was, or the morning I woke up under my bed convinced I was still in Kandahar. Some things I still had to carry alone. But I let them see the outlines, and for the first time in a long, long time, they didn't look away. After dessert, my father stood and left the room briefly. When he returned, he handed me a weathered envelope. "What's this?" I pulled your academy file. "You what?" I still had access. I opened it. Inside was the official Naval Academy dropout paperwork, stamped, filed, complete with a note in my father's handwriting, rescinded from family record, see revised file. Attached was a new sheet, Colonel Rachel Monroe Air Force Special Operations Command. Clearance top secret. It wasn't official, of course, but for the first time, my father had acknowledged my truth. On paper, in ink. That meant more than any ceremony. As I left that night, my mother walked me to the door. "I still don't understand all of it," she said quietly. "But I do know this. You didn't fail us. We failed you." I paused at the threshold. "It's okay." "No, it isn't. But maybe it can be." I nodded, emotion tightening my throat. And as I stepped back into the night, into the quiet hum of suburban peace I'd never quite belonged to, I realized something vital. I hadn't just reclaimed my name. I'd rewritten the myth of my failure. The funny thing about acceptance, it doesn't come all at once. It trickles in, tentative, awkward, unsure of itself, like a guest showing up at the wrong door with the right intentions. One dinner didn't erase the years of silence, or the birthdays missed, or the holidays where I sat in hotel rooms nursing bruises from missions my family didn't even know existed. But it was a start. In the weeks that followed, things began to shift. Slowly, cautiously, like soldiers relearning how to trust after friendly fire. Caleb called me first. We talked about nothing important: sports, military policies, office politics. But it was natural, easy. He even joked that if I ever wanted to slum it, I could brief his unit on strategic infiltration. "You're the big gun now," he teased. "Colonels don't brief SEALs," I replied. "We just send them into impossible situations and hope they don't wreck the exit route." He laughed. "Sounds about right." After that, the calls came more often. Then texts. Then emails. One day, he sent me a photo from his barracks wall, a newspaper clipping featuring one of my missions redacted to death, but still clear enough for military types to decode. Below it, he'd taped a sticky note: "I knew this was you. You crazy genius." I kept that screenshot on my phone. Mom started small. A few polite texts. A forwarded recipe, as if I suddenly had time to bake. An awkward message asking if I needed help organizing my cabinets. I think that was code for, "I don't know how to talk to a war hero, but I still want to be your mother." So I texted back, "I'm good, but I'll take you up on that cabinet thing if it means you'll stop pretending I don't know how to cook." She responded with a heart emoji. That was progress. A week later, she mailed me a care package. Old school. Inside, a hand-knit scarf, her famous lemon shortbread, and a photo album titled "Rachel Before the Silence." It was filled with childhood pictures. Bike rides, spelling bees, backyard campouts with Caleb, Dad holding me up at my Navy Academy acceptance party. I hadn't seen those images in years. I thought they'd buried them with my so-called failure. But there they were, clean, preserved, not forgotten. And then there was Dad, Vincent Monroe, Commander, Navy legend, emotional mystery. He didn't call, he didn't text. But one morning, a white government envelope arrived on my desk. Inside was a single line handwritten on DoD stationery. "Proud of you, Colonel. Let's talk soon. VM." That was it. No fanfare, no apology. But for a man like him, that was practically a love letter. Still, not everything was easy. 2 months after the dinner, I was invited to speak at a joint interbranch leadership summit, behind closed doors, of course. My presentation focused on asymmetric threat response in urban warfare. Caleb's unit was in attendance. He sat near the back in uniform, stone-faced, and professional. I didn't acknowledge him. He didn't react to me. But afterward, he caught up in the hallway. "Didn't expect the legend herself to be so damn funny," he said. "I work better in shadow ops and awkward punchlines," I replied. He gave me a coin. His unit's challenge coin. Custom-made, silver-rimmed. Laser engraved with their motto, "Move silent, hit loud." "We don't give these to outsiders," he said. I held it up. "You sure I'm not still the dropout sister?" He shook his head. "You're the one we tell stories about. The kind we're not even allowed to admit are true." That moment, that beat of recognition between warriors. Not siblings, not kids under the same roof, but operators who've seen hell and carried it back in their bones. It was worth everything. Then came the twist. A week before Thanksgiving, I was summoned to a top clearance meeting with a joint interagency task force. I assumed it was another overseas briefing, intel sharing, or prep for an upcoming operation. But when I walked into the room, I saw something that made my stomach drop. General David Rourke. Again. Only this time, he wasn't standing in a ceremony. He was seated across from 2 Pentagon officials and a civilian rep from the State Department. Beside them, a laptop, playing footage, the footage, from the SEAL ceremony. The moment he called me Colonel, the ripple, the stares, my family's stunned expressions, somebody had filmed it, and someone else had leaked it. Colonel Monroe, one of the officials began. Are you aware this video has over 3 million views? I blinked. Excuse me, it hit a military appreciation account. Then the algorithm took over. You're a meme now. The silent colonel. I groaned. That's ridiculous. No, it's viral. Even worse. Rourke looked amused. You were standing tall in civvies while every uniformed man in the room turned to you like a ghost from a war movie. It wasn't planned. It didn't need to be. They played the clip again. My frozen expression, the recognition, the murmur. You're a symbol now, another official said. The hidden warriors, the ones who fight and bleed and disappear into normalcy. America loves a story like that. I felt sick. I didn't sign up to be a symbol, I said flatly. No, Rourke agreed. But maybe the symbol found you. The fallout was strange. Within a week, I'd received requests for interviews, anonymous messages from young women in ROTC asking if I was real, and one surreal letter from a senator's office offering to nominate me for a special honor on behalf of those who serve unseen. I turned it all down, except one. A high school in Virginia Beach, the one I'd attended, invited me to speak to their senior girls leadership group. I almost declined, but something about it pulled at me, so I went. Standing in front of those girls, some eager, some bored, some biting their nails, I told the truth. Not all of it, but enough. I told them about expectations, about silence, about strength that doesn't look like medals or headlines, about loving your country enough to protect it from behind a mask. One girl raised her hand. Did your family believe you were a failure? I nodded. For a long time, yes. How'd you deal with that? By being better than they ever imagined, I said. Not out of spite, out of mission. Later that night, I received a message from Caleb. Just 3 words. Mission well done. He wasn't talking about the school speech. He was talking about all of it. They say the truth sets you free. What they don't say is that sometimes freedom feels like standing in the wreckage of everything you once believed and still choosing to walk forward. 3 days after my speech at the high school, I received a letter. Real paper ivory envelope. My name written in crisp cursive. It was from my mother, inside a single page. I watched the video again. Over and over. Not just the moment General Rourke addressed you, but the way you stood there. Calm, composed. Like you didn't need their applause to validate you. You've always been strong. I just never knew what that strength looked like. I'm sorry I ever called it failure. I sat with that letter for a long time. Then I folded it and tucked it into my desk drawer beside the only 2 personal things I kept in my work locker. The photo of me and Caleb in Halloween costumes, and a worn patch from my first covert mission sewn into a scrap of field jacket. That week, I was called to Washington for a closed briefing on a developing situation in the Baltic corridor. There had been chatter digital signals pointing to an imminent strike on diplomatic convoys. The intel was murky, but one thread kept popping up. My name, or rather my alias. An old one I hadn't used since Kandahar. Whoever was behind this operation knew me, which meant they knew too much. Colonel Monroe, my handler said, this is personal. You have permission to lead. I nodded once, then we hunt. I didn't tell my family. They were just beginning to breathe again, to see me as more than a myth. No sense dragging them into another chapter they couldn't read. So I boarded a private military jet in the middle of the night and disappeared into another war zone under another name. For 2 weeks, I led a ghost team across borders. Most governments wouldn't admit we'd crossed. We tracked digital trails through Moscow's underground networks, decrypted fragments of intercepted code, followed them to a warehouse outside Riga. Inside, we found the node, a stolen military-grade server, pulsing with information tagged with my old mission logs. They'd been watching me, studying me, waiting. But they didn't expect me to find them first. We seized the node, extracted it, silently. No one died, no explosions, just the efficient surgical removal of a threat before it became an international nightmare. When I returned, the director of operations called me into her office. This never happened, she said, sliding a manila folder across the desk. I figured, I replied, flipping it open. A commendation, no name, no date, just a barcode. Still, she added, you're on the short list for promotion. I raised an eyebrow. There's a shorter list than Colonel, she smiled. There is when you operate in the dark long enough. Back home, things had changed. My father had started including me in the family newsletter, not as our daughter Rachel, but as Colonel Monroe USAF. He even signed his name with a salute emoji once. Small miracles. My mother invited me to a church charity event. Nothing major, just a bake sale fundraiser for the local veterans home. She handed me an apron. "You want me to sell cookies?" I asked deadpan. "You led hostage extractions," she replied. "You'll manage." Caleb showed up halfway through, still smelling like jet fuel from wherever the Navy had just dropped him. "I saw your file," he said quietly, while loading a tray of lemon squares. I turned to him. "You what?" He smirked. "I have friends in high places now, or maybe low places. Either way, you're legend." I didn't reply, just bumped his shoulder with mine and kept organizing brownies. And then came the ceremony. Not mine, my father's. He was receiving a community service award from the local Veterans Council. A big deal. The mayor, local press, even a state senator in attendance. He invited me to sit with him at the head table. I hadn't been seated beside my father in any official capacity since I left the academy. Not even during Caleb's seal ceremony. That spot had always been reserved for the successful child, but now it was mine. He introduced me to the mayor as Colonel Rachel Monroe, U.S. Air Force. No hesitation, no caveats. Later, during his speech, he said something that caught me completely off guard. "I come from a military family," he began, "with 2 children who serve. One, you all know my son, a Navy SEAL. The other, you may not. My daughter." He paused, looked down, cleared his throat. "She operates in places you'll never read about. She's worn wounds the world never saw. And for years, I thought she'd failed. But what I didn't understand then is that real service doesn't always wear a uniform where people can see it. Sometimes it hides, because it has to." He looked at me then, straight on, no fear. "She didn't fail, I did. And I'm proud to say I raised a warrior." There were tears in my mother's eyes. Even Caleb sat straighter. And me, I didn't cry, but I let myself breathe. That night, I stood in my childhood bedroom, converted now into some faux guest room, all beige and neutral tones, and stared at the walls. The medals weren't there. The photos weren't either. But inside me, the ghosts had settled. I pulled open the closet door. Inside, tucked between old books and a dusty briefcase, was my original Naval Academy acceptance letter. Still laminated, still creased from being unfolded, and refolded 1,000 times. I'd carried it with me all these years. Not because it reminded me of who I was, but because it reminded me of who they thought I'd never become, and what I became anyway. 6 months later, I stood once again in uniform, full blues. This time, freshly pressed ribbons, aligned with surgical precision. Brigadier General Monroe. It was official now. The promotion ceremony had been private. No media, no live streams. Just a quiet room at Joint Base Andrews, a short list of names, and a handful of people who'd seen the work I couldn't talk about. But in the front row, in full view of those names and faces, sat my family. Dad wore his Navy dress uniform like it still belonged to him. Caleb had flown in from deployment, his SEAL trident gleaming against his jacket. And my mother, God bless her, had brought a tissue box she pretended wasn't necessary. I didn't plan to speak. Most recipients don't. But when the commanding officer offered the floor, something inside me said, "Now." So I stepped forward, cleared my throat, and told the truth. I spent most of my career in the shadows, by design. I worked behind code names under aliases outside of visibility. It was the job I chose, and for a long time, I told myself that silence was strength, that the mission mattered more than recognition. I paused, scanning their faces. But it's not just silence that protects a mission. It's trust. It's endurance. It's knowing who you are even when nobody else does. And sometimes it's letting people see you again, not the legend, not the file, but the human behind it. There was a beat of stillness. Then came applause. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Later, Caleb cornered me by the reception punch table. "General now, huh?" he said, grinning. "Can't believe I'm gonna have to salute you if we ever end up in a joint op." "You don't have to salute me," I said. "Just stop eating all the lemon bars Mom bakes. That'd be enough respect." He laughed. "No promises." After the ceremony, we went out for dinner. Not a banquet, not a catered event. Just a quiet table at our family's favorite seafood place, The same one Dad used to take us to after swim meets when we were kids. This time there were no comparisons, no backhanded compliments, just conversation. Normal, easy. I caught Dad watching me once between bites of crab cakes. What I asked. He shook his head slowly. I just keep thinking about all the years we lost. We didn't lose them, I said, picking up my water glass. We just didn't know how to use them. Mom reached across the table and laid a hand over mine. I see you now, she whispered, and that was it. That was the closure I hadn't realized I still needed. Not validation, not forgiveness, just acknowledgement. 3 weeks later, I got called for another mission. High priority, interagency. And this one was going to require going dark again for months, possibly longer. I packed lightly. I always do. The fewer items you take, the less you have to remember. But I brought 2 things I never used to a framed photo of my family at my promotion ceremony, and a letter. A real letter, written by me, sealed in an envelope, addressed to them, just in case. Because if life in the shadows had taught me anything, it was some truths deserve daylight, even if you never get to see it. Deployment was hard, not just because of the mission, which was grueling unpredictable and required precision at levels most humans can't fathom, but because this time, I had people waiting on the other side. Real people, not just handlers or briefers, but family. One night in a safe house barely larger than a closet, I opened my phone and saw a message from Caleb. Family dinner when you're back. No mission talk, just you and us. You in? I didn't reply immediately, not because I wasn't sure, but because I needed to take that moment in. A moment that 10 years ago I would have never believed possible. When I finally returned 6 months and 2 continents later, I walked up my parents' driveway with a duffel bag slung over one shoulder and dirt still on my boots. The house looked the same, but I didn't. Because now I was visible. Now I was known. My father opened the door before I knocked. "You're late," he said. "Had to change out of my secret identity," I replied. He laughed, actually laughed. Inside the house smelled like garlic bread and something lemony. Mom's go-to for emotional nights. Caleb sat on the couch, beer in hand, looking at home in the space that used to feel like mine. And yet somehow it still did. Because now it wasn't a place of judgment. It was a place of return. Over dinner, we didn't talk about operations, or medals, or promotions. We talked about books, about Mom's garden, about Caleb's wedding plans, about Dad's newfound obsession with woodworking of all things. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to defend my existence. I just existed. Present, seen, not the dropout, not the mystery, just me. Later that night, I stood in the backyard staring up at the stars. Mom came out and joined me, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "You used to lie out here for hours," she said. Said the night made more sense than daylight. Still does sometimes. She turned to me. "You know," she said, "I always wondered what I did wrong. Why you stopped trusting us. Why you disappeared." "I didn't disappear," I told her gently. "You just stopped looking." She nodded slowly. "I'm sorry for that." "I know," I said. "And I'm here now." That was enough. That had to be enough. Before I left that night, Dad pulled me aside. Held out a small wooden box. "What's this?" He shrugged. "Something I made. Figured it was time you had something personal in the house again." Inside was a military shadow box. My shadow box. A handmade frame. Custom carved, lined with velvet. Empty. He smiled. "You can fill it, however you want." I blinked. "You're okay displaying classified nothingness," he chuckled. "It's not the medals, it's the memory, the weight. I want that on our wall." And just like that, the girl who was once erased became part of the legacy again. There are things I'll never be able to tell them. Places I've been. Choices I've made. Lives I've lost and saved. But now, I don't have to pretend those parts don't exist. I don't have to live behind a lie to protect a truth. I can carry both. The visible and the invisible. The mission and the memory. The silence and the voice that finally gets to say, "I was never lost. I was serving all along. And now, I've come home." If you've ever been the misunderstood one, the one written off, underestimated, or pushed aside, know this. Sometimes your journey isn't for them to understand. Sometimes it's for you to endure. And if you keep going one day, they might catch up. And see you. Really see you. Thanks for walking with me. If this story hit home, drop a comment. Tell me your invisible victory. Because maybe, just maybe, it's time to make the unseen undeniable. Story 2. I received the message uninviting me shortly after they sent the invitation on a Tuesday. The envelope had the thickness cream color and gold filigree that you would expect from an Ivy League wedding or a senator's fundraiser. The front said, Bristow Family Reunion, Fairmont Hotel, San Francisco, August 15th, 7 p.m. I didn't open it. Not necessary. The name of the hotel was too familiar. It was listed under the Elite Partners Platinum tier on my tablet's client list. That was my electronic signature verifying the reservation on the contract. My cousin Olivia, who is always the unofficial family coordinator, buzzed a message on my phone a few moments later. The one with the courteously wrapped bad news. Hello, Lila. Just so you know, this year's Fairmont is completely booked. It will be a formal event with many guests arriving by plane. I hope it works for you. The emoji, the unspoken symbol of exclusion. Not a complete rejection. A courteous erasure only. I had previously seen this. Birthday invitations never came. During career announcements, my name was silently removed from group chats. I was never called a failure. They simply acted as though I didn't exist. I went back to my desk. The San Francisco skyline glowed in a misty haze as the rain pattered softly against the window of my 27th floor corner office. My screen still displayed the Bristol event contract. Olivia made the reservation via my concierge platform at the Fairmont Hotel. It had been flagged for approval by our assistant. For last-minute high-profile reservations, I personally approved a 30% premium. They were unaware that the same girl who used to work late into the night cleaning hotel rooms was now the CEO of Morgan Properties, which owns 15 historic buildings across Northern California. Unpredictable lost cause was what they continued to whisper. Let them speak. I never desired their acceptance. The night was mine. I walked over to the bookshelf and took out a tiny black frame that was hidden behind my business books. There was a battered plastic badge inside. Lila Housekeeping, San Francisco Grand Pacific Hotel, 2013. That night, I placed it prominently on my desk to remind myself why I had said yes to myself when everyone else had said no, even though I hadn't seen it in years. There are two kinds of people in this world, according to my mother. Those who inherit names and those who carry legacies. After supper, when the wine had relaxed her speech, she would whisper it. We were supposed to. Not as though everything he said was legally binding. When I first realized what my role was, I was 11 years old. The burden, not the name. They intended for me to join Morgan Capital as a junior associate by the time I turned 24. My name was already on the door of an office. Morgan Lila. Business plan. Less than a year passed. I asked the wrong questions, not because I didn't succeed. Inquiries concerning layoffs. No one provided an explanation regarding the outsourcing of janitorial staff or the long-term employees' disappearance of their retirement fund. Your thinking is too limited. From behind his desk of polished oak, my father let out a bark. You're blind? No, I replied. All I'm interested in is what people carry. Our last meaningful conversation ended there. Our relationship shifted to a quiet distance after that. Birthdays are disregarded, and texts are not read. I enrolled in and graduated first in my class from San Francisco State University's Hospitality Management program. Not one member of the family appeared. I was cleaning rooms at a dilapidated motel close to Market Street a year later. Each shift has 10 rooms. Wet linen and towels that smelled like bleach. However, it was truthful. I started from scratch when building it. No freebies. Olivia sent me the wedding picture from her reception at that point. Everyone was glowing. Smiling faces, sparkling champagne, and tailored suits. Even though I wasn't in the photo, I can still clearly recall that evening. A dishwasher was on break, and the DJ had left early, so I sat at a table close to the kitchen. Olivia explained that it was because I appeared more at ease there. A screenshot of a family group chat showed up in my inbox 2 days later. A picture with a caption of my old housekeeping badge. Cleaning rooms was her goal. She must have gotten what she wanted. They chuckled. Nobody raised their voice, not even Aunt Marlene. You don't have to be like the others, said the aunt who once gave me lemon drops in a whisper. I discovered that day. Not all erasure is loud or furious. Sometimes there is silence. You sit far from the head of the table, get cropped out of enough pictures, leave off enough messages, and eventually start to question whether you were ever there at all. So I let it go. I started creating something that no one could ignore, instead of waiting for them to notice me. With only 3 months' worth of savings, an old laptop, and one duffel bag, I left San Francisco. There was only a desperate need for silence, no grand scheme. Somewhere, no one gave a damn about my family, and my last name was irrelevant. In Woodstock, Vermont, I rented a tiny attic room in a dilapidated farmhouse. May and Frank, an elderly couple who operated it, paid me in cash to take reservations, change linens, and deal with latecomers. I was given room 9, which had a single bed, a skylight that framed the stars, and a low slanted ceiling. I adored it. That was the beginning of true solitude. The concept, not the company. I scrawled questions in a battered spiral notebook. What caused some visitors to return while others disappeared? Why would a stranger feel noticed in a place they had never been to before? Safe, I watched. I tried things out. A confused sign, a crooked bench, and a buzzing lamp. I made all the repairs without a budget. Just be mindful. Soon guests started asking for Lila, not Miss Morgan, Miss Lila. When May and Frank decided to retire, I showed up with spreadsheets, market research, and a vision. I made an offer they accepted. I renamed it Maple House. My first property, my first real win. 5 rooms, no employees, just me. I poured my heart into it, scrubbing every floorboard, replacing musty curtains with linen panels, painting walls in soft shades of sage and cream on every nightstand. I left a handwritten card. "You're here now, you can rest." Guests remembered that line. I didn't hire a PR firm. I didn't need one. What did word of mouth do? No advertising effort could. Guests shared stories with their friends and raised awareness. Support came from attention, not millions. Enough, but not overnight. I opened a second property, Maple Ridge, in less than 5 years. Then came a third, Maple Harbor, which was subtly superior to the larger resorts, despite being smaller. I gave them titles, respect, and fair pay when I promoted former housekeepers to site managers. No rigid uniforms, just dignified real work. Subscribe right away if you think that starting over and quiet strength are powerful. You won't want to miss what comes next because Maple House's journey is just getting started. No hollow greetings, no phony smiles. Only those who proudly understood the true meaning of service. Never give in. By the time I turned 31, Maple House had subtly developed into a reputable brand of its own. Subtle luxury, careful consideration. No velvet ropes, no fountains made of marble. Only true dignity, done correctly. I never signed my name on any of it, though. Under MP, the properties were listed. Morgan Holdings. Most people thought the CEO was a man who was ideal for me. I wasn't hiding. I was defending my creation. I was able to make something they couldn't destroy because of the silence. I kept my old plastic badge behind my desk, tucked away between vendor catalogs and fabric samples. The center of Lila's housekeeping was faded, cracked, and scratched. It should have been replaced long ago, but I wore it for a long time. Presented it simply. No glass black frame, not affixed to any wall. Just for me, not for show. I held it some nights after countless spreadsheets and signatures. To remember the foundation, not to relive the suffering. I didn't construct Maple House to make a statement. I made it to fit in. One of Vermont's most upscale boutique hotels, Maple Harbor, was their choice for the family reunion. They didn't know. The corporate portal was used to make the reservation for Maple Harbor. In the family conversation, Olivia boasted about using her connections to get the desired location. "We're very fortunate," she said. The manager at the front desk informed her that although the owner was very private, everything was expedited as soon as they saw the family name. They were correct. I personally approved the linen color scheme, doubled the staff, upgraded their service, imported fresh flowers, and expedited it myself. Naturally, digitally. Remember to subscribe if you experienced that silent moment of victory with me. When they eventually discover whose foundation they have been standing on, the next chapter begins. I hadn't signed a document in years, of course. When you leave, silence is the best defense, not a single fingerprint. S. Bristow was listed as the host on the reservation, which was made using Morgan Hospitality's elite tier. The irony could have broken glass. Hannah, our guest relations manager, was reassigned to manage the account. Sophie was just another overly involved client who was fixated on spreadsheets and flower arrangements. She was intelligent, steady, and blissfully ignorant of family drama to Hannah. Sophie requested a custom floral arrangement with blue and white delphiniums and hydrangeas a week prior to the reunion. Hannah was summoned to my office. I told Hannah to be kind to them, but not gentle. Curious, she cocked her head. "What are you saying? Don't treat them like delicate glass. Simply serve them as they would like to be served." Slowly, a knowing smile crept onto Hannah's face as she nodded. I didn't have to explain everything to her. I sent just one message that evening. "You're coming, Janine, in 2. Get there at 6:40. Avoid letting them in too soon." I saw the read receipt, but she didn't respond. That was sufficient for the following 6 days. Sleep was an uncommon visitor. I went over every aspect, including the menu options, signage, lighting cues, and room layout. I made one small adjustment at the last minute. Typically, a printed welcome note from the host family was placed in each guest suite. The card read this time, "We hope your visit serves as a reminder of your origins and what you never really lost." I didn't fully sign up Layla. I didn't have to. On the day of the reunion, I didn't go through the front doors of the Grand. Rather, as I always did, I slipped in through the service entrance, passing carts full of fresh linens and trays of champagne glasses. Entering through the back door to enter the center of the house has a sacred quality. It helps you stay grounded. My outfit was navy, not wearing any jewelry. A hairpin, quite nicely. Nothing. Called out for attention. For me, the room did that. They arrived in pairs at 6:45 p.m., followed by small groups. All the nervous sparkle of people who are desperate to be noticed, from loud laughter to firm handshakes. Sophie, too. Unaware that she was entering my home, she entered like a cruise director, grinning and waving. 10 minutes later, my father showed up with 2 strangers on either side. I instantly recognized sleepwatches, polished shoes, and finance types. The kind of men who use spreadsheets to build empires, but don't remember the janitors' names. From a tiny monitor hidden just past the kitchen hallway, I observed. Present but hidden. I was not missed. The beauty of it was that no one searched for me anymore because I had been removed from their story so long ago. However, that was going to change. The ballroom lights dimmed just enough to silence the conversation and pique interest at precisely 7:15. Then the noise. 3 gentle chimes, slow and methodical. Sophie was in the middle of describing the personalized glassware. With a clipboard in hand and his customary cool professionalism, our guest services manager Everett came over to her. "The owner has asked that we start the welcome presentation right away." "Miss Bristow?" he said softly. The owner was perplexed by Sophie's blinks. "Well, I don't believe that's required. I have been working with your office for weeks, and we have already expressed our gratitude to the staff. Usually, the owner doesn't do these things." Everett remained silent. All he did was turn to the stage. The screen came to life. White and crisp with a soft navy background and a clean serif font it's hard to miss. Layla Morgan, the CEO and CEO of P. Morgan Holdings, founded Maple Harbor. The space grew cold. Sophie's float broke on the marble floor after slipping out of her hands. The back did not speak, but my father's jaw tensed. There was a murmur. "Oh, hold on, what?" Above the ballroom, I stepped onto the landing. Baby dress poised and composed hairpin back heels clicking softly. I was just like the woman they said I would never be. "Good night?" I said in a calm, steady voice. "I'm aware that many of you were surprised to see me here tonight." "Hold on." When the table attempted to laugh, there was a nervous chuckle. "After all, you didn't invite me." "Letting the words hang," I said. "However, I felt it was time for you to be properly welcomed to Maple Harbor. After all, I let my gaze roam the crowd. You're in my house right now." Mouths parted, chairs shuffled. Rose whispers. Sophie moved forward apprehensively. The cheeks turned red. "Crazy!" "What are you doing, Lila?" she muttered. I looked into her cool, unblinking eyes. "Just like you taught me." "Entering. This hotel was reserved in your name," I said in a quiet but distinct voice. "You stated that the Bristow name was the reason the owner showed you courtesy. Correct? That was accurate. I provided you with precisely what you requested, plus 20%. I spoke without flinching. That was the triumph. You talked about me for years as if I were some far-off embarrassment. A dropout, a housekeeper, the girl who squandered her name. You said I vanished. I didn't go away, though. They simply stopped observing. I looked around the room bases, older, more rigid, motionless, and adorned with the fragile astonishment of being caught off guard. Their uneasiness was nothing new. The story had changed, so it was simply louder now. My dad got up. "Layla!" His voice was unreadable and rough. "This place is yours," I responded. "Equally across 4 states." Adding that I owned 17. He didn't respond. "Not necessary," I said. "I'm not here for applause. I came to give something back." I nodded slightly in Hannah's direction. 2 team members, each carrying svelte black folders, followed her forward. Inside were signed event contracts, one for each visitor. Layla Morgan is her name. They have a single note and itemized rates. Occasionally, the story you attempted to remove still ends up on the wall close to the rear. Janine laughed softly, knowingly. "Why didn't you use your full name from the beginning?" A gentle older man standing next to my father asked. I hesitated because I wanted to construct something before anyone made a decision about what it should be. As I moved away, he nodded quietly and with understanding in his eyes. It was the noise, not the light, that dimmed the ballroom. I didn't feel invisible for the first time in years. A diplomat was discreetly assigned to the VIP suite that Sophie had insisted on calling 4 times to secure. Arriving late, she was heavily pregnant. Naturally, Sophie's new room was still lovely, but it was the same kind of alley that I used to clean for $9.75 an hour. Aunt Janine came looking for me, but my father never did. After 11 p.m., she knocked on the door of my office. She wasn't invited in. She didn't inquire. All she did was give me an envelope. It contained a picture I hadn't seen in many years. I was on the back porch of the old Bristow house, maybe 8 years old. My father's hand rested lightly on my shoulder while he held a pitcher of lemonade in both hands. Not for anything noteworthy, but because I spilt the lemonade a few minutes later, I remembered that day, fearful of receiving a reprimand. Nobody spoke. They chuckled. I didn't feel like I belonged on the back again after that. You were woven into Janine's looping script. That was all. Before I could say anything, she was gone. I rode the elevator to the service floor the following morning. The housekeeping staff was getting started. Some gave a nod, a young woman grinned, and then averted her gaze. I strolled over to the former supply room. Our break area is now. Near the rear wall was a coat rack. I took the framed name tag out of my bag. Lila. Cleaning. Above the jackets, I hung it. No spotlight, no plaque. Just a nail and some wood. Sophie left a note in her room later that day. "We did something that you didn't deserve." Although I didn't respond, the return address appeared on the reunion invitations sent out the following spring. Caldwell Miracle at Ellen.Group. Please subscribe and stick around if my story speaks to you. I didn't construct Maple Harbor to make a statement. I constructed it to provide a home for people like us. Tell me what they attempted to remove from you in the comments section below. Even if the voice is only a whisper, it still matters. If you have ever been forgotten or forgotten, no, you are not by yourself. It matters how strong you are in silence, and your future is built with each little step you take. Together, we surpass everyone's expectations, so please subscribe and come along on this journey with me. Your assistance means the world to me. Story 3. The Christmas invitation never showed up. No email, no call, nothing but quiet. Chicago. Every time I went outside in the winter, the air felt like glass fragments against my skin. Knowing there would be nothing, I continued to check my phone. I would keep my thumb over my messaging app, hoping that Mom would send me a happy text about Thanksgiving dinner. Dad didn't post a dumb meme about tangled Christmas lights. Alex didn't send me a frantic message asking me to assist with gift wrapping. Nothing but emptiness. I felt as though I had been removed. However, I received something on December 20th. Not a card, not a present. A UPS envelope, formal and stiff. The return label bore the names of my parents. My heart leapt. It might have been a late invitation. A torrid open fingers shaking a peace offering. There was only one sheet inside. No note, no letter, just a bill. Official. The number caused me to blink. $25,000. Like ice water, the amount hit me hard. The description caught my attention twice. Last spring, I accompanied my younger brother on a test drive of the SUV. I gasped for air. No justification. No. Please. Chloe, no. Apologies. Only the need for money. It dawned on them then. I was no longer family. I was a deal. A bank account. I'm Chloe Wynn, a 30-year-old Chicago, Illinois resident. My family attempted to eradicate me in this way, and how after that I subtly ensured that they thought of me each Christmas, prior to revealing what I did. Leave a comment. Follow me if you believe in small victories, and if your family has ever treated you like a wallet. My name is Chloe Wynn. I started my own digital marketing company from the ground up. Long nights and inexpensive takeout. However, I made it my way. I was forced to. My family has always operated in this manner. I discovered at a young age that I had to work for what I wanted. No one else could be relied upon. From the outside, we appeared to be a picture-perfect family living in a lovely condo in Chicago. My parents, Lynn and Victor, were very concerned with appearances and how we appeared to friends and neighbors, more than feeling anyone occasionally, more than truthfulness. Our vacation pictures were perfect. We looked like we belonged at every school function, posing as the ideal family. The reality was different. Alex is my younger brother. He is now 24. He was always the star, the golden one. They saw everything he did as flawless, even when it wasn't. He couldn't do anything wrong, even if he made a mistake. He was always dramatic. My parents also stood up for him. Regardless of how loudly he shouted, regardless of how obviously he was at fault. It's just Alex being sensitive, I see. According to my mother, Alex requires additional assistance. Chloe. I never understood that. All I was supposed to be was strong. I've seen it all my life. Alex, who was 3 years old, tore my drawing when I was 5. My meticulous photograph was ruined. I sobbed. My mother hurried over to Alex. Are you all right, my love? Does Chloe frighten you? Not Chloe. Are you okay? That was always the case. Holidays and birthdays. The larger piece of cake went to Alec. The more costly presents. I was reassured to be patient, mature, and to share. And me, I was supposed to return the favor. They would say that. You're very responsible, Chloe. You return the favor. In other words, Chloe paid Chloe to fix things. Alec's essays are proofread by me. I took him to tryouts. I paid attention to his issues. I served as his emotional punching bag and built-in support system. Occasionally, I covered a large portion of Alex's tuition when he went to college. A significant portion, but not all of it. According to my parents, finances were tight. It would facilitate Alex's initial steps. You're doing fantastically with your business, Chloe. I wanted him to get off to a strong start. My goal was to assist my brother. I did it because he was family, and I gave him job leads after he graduated. I made use of my contacts. His resume was sent out. For me, it wasn't difficult. It should be a good sister, I hope. I believed it demonstrated to them my concern and my familial ties. Then Alex's old car broke down last spring. Complete disaster. Alex called me in tears. I'm unable to attend auditions. My life is over. According to my parents, Alex's credit was maxed out due to excessive bills and shopping sprees. I had a feeling they were looking at me with silent pressure in their eyes. Chloe, Alex needs a car. For everything for his career. So I did it. A new car was co-signed by me. Although it was a large loan, $25,000, they assured me that it would be repaid within a few weeks, until we moved the money. It sounded reasonable. I had faith in them. After all, it was my family. Months passed. Repayment is not mentioned. No, Alex, thanks for your assistance. No apologies for the quiet. Yes, we will. Nothing. Each month, the loan payments depleted my account. I was reminded sharply that I was responsible, and they said nothing. Nevertheless, I continued to appear because that was who I was, the trustworthy one. I made dinner for Christmas last year. I cooked it on all sides, but my mom boasted about her roast duck. I brought presents for everyone. Thoughtful presents. Despite the lack of funds, following those auto payments, what did I receive? Lynn, my mother, clamps me over my comfortable jeans, my cozy sweater. "Chloe," she said. She spoke in a slightly sharp voice. "Why do you not wear heels? Christmas is here." That's how our company operates, after working in the kitchen for hours, after purchasing presents. A remark regarding my footwear. Something was always there. I knew I had to set boundaries this year. It was challenging. The work had slowed, the money was tighter. I was also worn out. I'm sick of being the assistant. I'm fed up with being the bank. I informed them that I would not be able to host Christmas this year. "I just can't, Mum. Work is too much to handle. I also need a vacation." I spoke slowly. I told them I couldn't give them any more money, hoping they would understand. Not at this moment. Mum, things were tight, with the bills and the business. I kept the car payments to myself. I believed they were aware. They must have known. The silence started then. No yelling, no insults, no fight. A worse thing, not a thing, a vacuum. They simply stopped communicating with me. No one picked up when I called. My messages went unanswered. I seemed to vanish. December arrived. Chicago became cold. I stayed motionless and called. No alerts, no phone calls, no invitation to Christmas. Every time I looked at my screen, I felt sick to my stomach. Waiting for bad news was how it felt. Or worse, absolutely no news, just in case I kept checking. Perhaps I had overlooked something. I hadn't. The fear increased with each day that went by. As Christmas approached, I felt like I was looking in from the outside. Alex, meanwhile, was everywhere. Holiday cheer filled his Instagram. Glimmering light, a tall tree full of presents, flawless garlands, like a photo shoot for a catalog, as well as the captions, small stab wounds in my chest. "I'm grateful for my wonderful family this Christmas. Stay put and click subscribe." In your own family, have you ever felt invisible? Don't forget what I did in the end to get them to notice me permanently. The post that went deep came next. This year I can't wait to spend time with my real ones. Fake stuff is not acceptable. I was one of the real ones. I suppose they didn't find me genuine enough. One of their real ones wasn't me. The day before Christmas Eve, December 23rd, then arrived. I got a UPS envelope at my door. It had such an official appearance, so conclusive. I grabbed it. My fingers were chilly. It might have been an apology. A late invitation, perhaps. A sacrifice for peace. I tore it open. My hands are trembling. I really hoped that it would be different within a single sheet of paper. Not a nice note. Not a brief letter either. A printed invoice only. Payment is urgently due. My parents gave it to me. At the top are their names. At the bottom is mine, listed as the owner of the account. My gaze landed on the $25,000 figure. I felt it like ice. I read the description after that. Excellent balance for Alex's Toyota Corolla 2023. I gasped for air. As simple as that. No Chloe, no explanation, no apology, just a request for cash. One of my own family bills. They wanted the car to be paid for by me, $25,000. Before the year ends, do this. They stated that Alex was now accepting accountability. What was meant by that, taking accountability by putting the bill on me. And the most painful part, they told a falsehood that I had promised to give him the car, in accordance with your verbal commitment to give Alex the car. A falsehood. I never claimed to have demanded payment. Next came the insult. They characterized me as untrustworthy and disruptive. Unsettling, untrustworthy. I was the one who was always there, always paid, always helpful. I felt totally deceived. Christmas was cut out for my own family. No dinner, no invitation, no justification, nothing. After that, I received a 5-figure bill, as if I were an unknown person, a debtor, a person they hardly knew, a person who owed them all. In the group chats, my name was not present. The family is not in danger, not in the planning text for Christmas, nothing. I had a ghostly feeling. I learned things from other people. That evening, my cousin Lily gave me a call. "Hello. On the 24th, will you be attending the family dinner?" Her tone was informal as she asked. My stomach turned over. I made an effort to speak quietly. "What is for dinner, Lily?" I inquired. She stumbled out a line about Alex throwing a large family party. I was not invited, but everyone else was. I was not invited. I ended the call. My heart felt hollow and broke into painful, jagged fragments. The day was Christmas Eve. The smell of cinnamon and pine permeated my building's corridors. I shut my door. I had thrown everything at them. My money and time, my allegiance, my assistance. I'm here. And what did I get from them? Nothing. Only a bill. The hard, cold bill. And quiet. A shouting silence. For 2 days you are not wanted. I went into a spiral. It was like plummeting into an endless abyss. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. I was by myself during those days. My apartment echoed and seemed endless. The silence surrounding me. Looked at every holiday picture on the internet. Every upbeat tune sounded like a mean insult. I was unable to eat, unable to fall asleep. My mind raced, reliving my entire life alongside them. Every moment I was invisible. Every time Alex was honored. I always answered yes rather than no. My breath came in short gasps, and my chest tightened. Tears burned in my eyes, but I fought the urge to cry. Not just yet. I opened Alex's car loan files, which included paper copies stashed in my file cabinet and digital copies on my laptop. I retrieved the papers with shaking hands. I had to see the words in black and white, so I printed them again. Bold and clear, my name stared back at me. The principal co-signer is Chloe Nguyen. Alex's name appears beneath it as the secondary borrower. That meant that I still owed $25,000 for his car, and if Alex stopped making payments, my credit would be destroyed, along with my stability and independence. I took another look at Alex's Instagram. He was tagging upscale shopping centers, driving around in my car, flaunting his new car posting selfies all the time, laughing, smiling, and living life to the fullest. I was sitting by myself, holding an invoice for his vehicle. My name is attached to a car. My issue. I felt a burning sense of injustice. I thought about paying it off to put a stop to it to solve the issue, win my way back into the family perhaps, to break the silence to alleviate the suffering. They might notice that I still cared if I paid, still desired them, still had a place. However, I went back and read the invoice. Unreliable and disruptive. Those words kept repeating in my head. They referred to me as untrustworthy. I was the one who consistently showed up. It was me who cleaned up their mess. It was always me who made the payment. I looked at the loan agreement once more. My name. Principal co-signer. Not merely a helper, not a backup. First, I therefore had rights. Authority over the vehicle. Alex wasn't the only one. I had it tied to me, my future, my credit. They also referred to me as untrustworthy. They misrepresented my assistance as a gift, shut me out, and then sent me a bill. Something changed within me. Not anger, but a quiet click. Be calm, confidence. I had had enough of being used. The day after Christmas is December 26th, the day they assumed I would simply pay in silence. I didn't. I showered in hot water. I had a purpose when I dressed, not in pajamas. Do not wear leggings, actual clothing, an immaculate white blouse, dark jeans. I had a clear head, concentrated. I took a car to the dealership, the one in which Alex selected his vehicle, the same location where I had driven him, where I had waited patiently as he selected features and colors. I had even assisted in lowering the price. I had the original loan documents with me. Each document is arranged in its own folder. Now my hands were steady. I entered. After Christmas, the dealership was quiet and serene. I requested funding. Mr. Carter emerged as a man. I took a seat across from him. I spoke firmly. Be calm. Expert. I describe everything. I pushed the documents over as the primary cosigner and said, "My name is on this loan. As promised, I have not received my money back. There has been a breach. The night before a friend's recommendation, I had given a lawyer a call. You have rights, Chloe, he had made clear to me. The car is yours to keep." My attorney wrote a letter. I gave Mr. Carter it. He carefully read it. He raised his eyebrows. He looked at the papers, then at me. "You want the car back because your brother stopped making payments, right?" he inquired. I gave a small shake of my head. "The repayment agreement was not upheld, I'm saying. The loan is in my name. I wish to submit a recovery application." It felt weird to say it, as if it were someone else's fight. It was mine, though. Mr. Carter started referring to people as finance legal. I waited while sitting, silent but determined. I checked in, buzzed my lawyer, and called. I updated him. He advised me to remain resilient. For the first time, I felt at ease, and my power was growing. I was choosing the conditions. For once, I had my lawyer on the phone with me to get prompt guidance and assistance from the finance company. Everything happened much more quickly than I had anticipated. They attested to my status as the principal cosigner. There had been no payment. The process of repossession started. Within 48 hours, the vehicle was removed from Alex's driveway. Silently, they arrived and removed it. Alex's anger erupted in the open. TikTok became well known. He yelled into his phone, "My car was stolen." My own sister's tears streaked his face, making it red. He sobbed, shouted, recorded the deserted driveway. There were thousands of comments. He was defended by some. "Heh. That is really harsh." Some were direct. "Perhaps reimburse your sister." "Alex, did your sister pay for this car? I've seen the video once." I didn't care about his tears. His drama seemed unfounded. I then blocked him. I didn't say anything on the internet. No scenes, no posts, no explanations. Everyone was blocked by me. Alex's cousins and my parents are texting and requesting answers. I filed everything under peace and erased their numbers. A serene force that I hadn't experienced in years swept over me. It was as though a burden had been lifted. After that, I told the dealership to sell the car when I brought it back. I received a good amount back, enough to cover some stress and payments, but not all. I donated a portion of it. Not to my family, not to them, but to a Chicago women's shelter. A place where women are empowered to rebuild. I made a donation on behalf of my family, a quiet acknowledgement of what they weren't. It felt natural, such as returning on my terms. My mother started calling in January. My father, then both. "Chloe, how did you accomplish this?" my mother yelled. "Alex is inconsolable." "You ruined Christmas," my dad said. They referred to me as self-centered. I paid attention. Let them be angry. I was prepared. Then their rage turned to begging. "For work, Alex needs his car." "Chloe, please. Can't we make this right?" responded once. "Be calm. Unambiguous. Your bank is not me. In your story, I am not the antagonist. Alex was your choice. You interrupted me. Sent me a bill rather than an invitation. So from now on, send him the bills." I hung up after that. I was liberated. I arranged a trip to Oregon by myself that winter. Snow, quiet, a tiny cabin. I drank tea read and went hiking. Discovered a calm I had never known. For me, it was a true Christmas, prior to departing. I mailed a plain white card. Inside are 3 words. In any case, Happy Christmas. Just their address, no return address. And let it go. Everything. If your family stopped talking to you and sent you a bill, would you still pay or return what's rightfully yours? Tell me. And if this resonates with you, like, subscribe, and forward this to someone who understands the true cost of self-respect.